Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Right Side. Today on the program, the real Kamala Harris. Oh, yeah, she's out there. She's got a record that is out there that cannot be erased. The fake enthusiasm of the radical left continues to surround her. She is not the desired pick. We'll see. Everybody's acting like she is, but she's a long way away from becoming the official nominee of the Communist Socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. We've got their convention coming up. She may well be, but I'm going to explain in today's program that it's not just the victory of the presidency thereafter. What is it precisely about Kamala that they want to do? What do they want to accomplish? Because by any standard, she won't reach the White House. So what could it be? I'll tell you. Plus, today on the program, a Make America Great First candidate for treasurer from the state of Missouri. Lori Rook will join me later in the program today. All of that and a little bit more. Ladies and gentlemen, The Right Side with Doug Billings is now upon you. Are you ready? Let's go.
Hey everybody, my name is General Mike Flynn, and I'm here to do a big shout out for my great friend and one of the best in the business, Mr. Doug Billings. Right side with Doug Billings, right side with Doug Billings. Doug is the future of the airwaves when it comes to independent broadcasters and podcasters. He is the new Rush Limbaugh. He's exactly what America needs right now, looking for honesty, looking for wisdom, looking for truth, looking for patriotism. Listen to Doug Billings at Right Side with Doug Billings. God bless you and God bless America, and thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are winning. We're winning, winning, winning. Welcome to The Right Side with Doug Billings. Are you ready?
We are not liberal snowflakes who melt away in the face of tragedy, adversity, and challenge. We are a covenant nation under God, and His divine providence is not dead and it's not gone. It is living within each and every one of you. And you will bring it to life in such a way that the world has never seen before. We never back down. We never give up. We march forward.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for joining me. I'm coming to you from smack dab in the middle of the fruited plain of the United States. And wow, emails today. I got to tell you, one from Curacao. Now, listen, I scuba dive in Curacao every chance I get. I haven't been there in a few years, but one of the best kept secrets in all of the Caribbean. So just thanks a lot for those of you down there at the Lions Beach Resort. I appreciate you very much. And thanks again for all of the scuba diving that you've given me and my son Grant over the years. We appreciate you very much. So today, ladies and gentlemen, you can, by the way, speaking of being in touch and contacting, I am going to open up the phone calls today, as I always do. Just want to remind you to get ready for that. 901-316-8404, 901-316-8404. We'll be opening up the lines here in just a minute. You want to get in line, though. Get in the queue. A lot to talk about the last couple of days. Joe Biden, Administrator Biden, said so long last night, ladies and gentlemen, and the radical left, all teary-eyed and weepy, celebrating the accomplishments, of Joe Biden, right? See, they say Joe Biden voluntarily stepped down from the most powerful position on the planet. Voluntarily just said so long, everybody. Folks, look, here's a pro tip for you. Biden didn't voluntarily give up anything. He was forced out. And we all know it. As part of this announcement was read, and he's going through it last night. Forgive me if I don't shed a tear for a guy who's purposefully destroyed America. But part of his speech was, it's time for young, fresh voices. Fresh, young voices to be part of the elected class. That's what we need. The comedy of all of that is that it's amazing. Just a few weeks ago, with the radical left and all of their minions, the talking heads and so forth, age was not an issue. Age was not anywhere in any of the talking points. In fact, they were going to great lengths to discredit us who were talking about Biden's mental acuity. And remember, we didn't make age an issue either. We didn't. We made mental acuity an issue, absolutely. Because when you begin to see in Russia posters of Joe Biden advertising dementia facilities, it becomes apparent that it's a topic that needs to be discussed. Look, I have never wished Joe Biden any physical ill will. Not when, in fact, I've gone to great lengths on this program to wish him well, and I still do. But excuse me, like I said, if I don't shed a tear for a man who was the puppet behind purposeful and diabolical chaos that has been unleashed upon us for the last 4 years. I'm glad that the rumors of him having some sort of a medical emergency were just that, rumors and clickbait. None of that proven, all of it just wild nonsense and speculation. Glad that he's okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I want Joe Biden to remain alive, and I want him to function just as the puppet that he's always been over the last 4 years. I don't want any 25th Amendment. I don't want him to be forced out of the presidency. I want him to stay in there until Election Day on November 5th and through the inauguration of President Trump on January 20th of 2025. Why? Why is this, Doug? What's the matter? What if he can't function and run as a candidate? He certainly can't be trusted to run the country as president. Well, he's not been running the country as president, folks. We all know that. So what's the big uproar now? I want him to stay in office. And it's not just because I've got this great sense of humanity and love for Biden. I admit that I have a selfish reason for this good wish and good and the well-being of Biden. I don't want him to step down because I can't stomach the thought of Kamala Harris becoming the first woman to occupy the White House. I want Joe to stay alive and relatively healthy long enough to do his job with the puppet masters who are all in place behind the scenes. Don't want him to relinquish the presidency. So am I alone in that? I can't be the only one. I mean, I see a lot of people in the elected class calling for his resignation. Invoke the 25th Amendment. What in the heck are you talking about? Let the man finish out. We've got 4 months to go until the election. We don't want Kamala Harris inserted into anything else. Thank you very much. And it's not because we're afraid of Kamala. It's because why would we want to bestow the honor of the first woman president upon her? There's a lot more qualified women, thank you very much, than her. So, ladies and gentlemen, I said a few weeks ago that Joe Biden would be removed from power by the liberal hierarchy of elites that run, manage, and lead that party. And I told you that they were not going to embarrass him. They were going to give him also, I predicted, a golden parachute, something to entice him to step down, something to take the sting out of this, of what he's going through now, to make it less painful, right? I'd flirted with the idea, and I told you about this, that they might be calling him President Emeritus Biden, right? Still functioning as the president, but kind of like what they do in the academic world, right? Chairman Emeritus or Professor Emeritus, whatever, so-and-so, John Doe. Well, I thought they would do that with Biden. But in essence, as it turns out, they have, minus that title. I get it. But in essence, what he is President Emeritus. He's a lame duck president. Won't be able to accomplish anything of substance. He never did, but he won't certainly within these last 4 months, 5 months of his presidency. So I've referred to him only as Administrator Biden. For those of you that watch this show, unless I've slipped up, I've never called the man President Biden. He was selected and he was given the keys to the White House and to the Oval Office. The radical left, they know, and they have always known, that he could not continue. Not just since the debate with Trump. They've known this for in fact, if we're honest with each other, they've known this since he was inserted into office in 2020. He was mentally unstable, mentally impaired then as he is now. But they're not going to embarrass him, not any more than what Jill has already done, that's for sure. She is the one responsible for putting him out there. I saw a picture today, and I posted it on X and Truth Social and Facebook and so forth, of Administrator Biden standing in the White House with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And I'm telling you, that picture that I posted of Joe Biden's face, it is the face, I call it dementia fear. Now, it's not a clinical term, but look, my mother had Alzheimer's disease. I have a personal experience with this. And every once in a while, there were moments of clarity. And sometimes the moments of clarity lasted a few days, maybe even a week or two. But then there were moments where there was what I called dementia fear, where she didn't know what was going on, who we were, and what was happening. And she had that look of just, it felt so sorry for her, for that look of terror. and being just afraid on her face. And that's what Joe Biden's face and his expression demonstrated with that photo op that he had with Netanyahu. And I commented, I said, this is not a laughing matter. This is serious. And so they're not going to look. I don't know why. I can't speak for Jill or for any of the family, obviously, but we all know what we see is elder abuse, and it's just tragic. I do not wish Joe Biden any physical harm. And like I said, I have a selfish reason for wanting him to remain right where he is. I cannot stand the thought of Kamala Harris being the first woman to occupy that office. So the hierarchy within the liberal communist-socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, have allowed him to remain in power for these 4 years. Why stop now? And they have selected, as you know, and that's the key word, selected Kamala Harris to replace him. So as far as that title, President Emeritus, it wasn't selected and used publicly, obviously, and I never anticipated that it would. I put that forth as sort of a jest, but that's what he will be. He'll be the President Emeritus. He'll continue to work and do what he's done with the help of his puppet masters, Susan Rice, Barack Obama, and the rest of the hierarchy there, helping him out, doing what they've always done since 2020. So a lame duck president? Yeah. But since he's not actively making any decisions within the Oval Office, other people are making them for him. He's surrounded by this cohort of the hierarchy, as I call them. They're making the decisions. So he really is, in a sense, President Emeritus, really president in title only, right? Not doing any of the work behind the scenes. So the radical left, again, this communist socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, folks, the blending of communism and socialism together, two ideologies, by the way, that typically don't get along with each other, but you got to hand it to them. In the elected class, the Democrats have blended those two things together, and they have become what I call the Communist Socialist Party. They are not, and all you have to do is look at evidence of the obvious to figure this out, they are not a pro-America political party. And during the process of deselecting Biden and selecting Harris, they have given us all a rather interesting civics lesson, ladies and gentlemen. You'll notice in social media, in the legacy fake news TV market, in all manner of posts that are made by the celebrity class, the elected class, everybody on the radical left, what they never refer to America as is what she is, a republic. Notice this. This is part of the civics lesson that they're giving us. And it's a good one because it's subtle, but it's real, and it's dangerous. So they never refer to America as that which she is, a republic. They always refer to her as a democracy. We are not a democracy. I've said to you before, our founders had specific and very passionate debates about not making America a democracy, because in a democracy, the mob rules. Well, they can't say the word republic, and they can't because it's the root word of Republican. And we in this nation have a Republican form of government. Now, that's a matter of fact, not a matter of opinion, but they can't say those words. Literally, they are under direct, coordinated orders to not utter the word republic. In a democracy, the mob, right? They rule. In a republic, it's we the people who rule. But the mob will squelch the rights of the people to rule in a democracy. The radical liberal movement in America, this commune socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, want no part of giving we the people a voice in the selection of their leadership. Imagine that. You witnessed in real time the radical left hierarchy completely ignore any plea or opportunity where the people within that party would have the opportunity to give a voice, to vote for who they wanted as the nominee for president of the United States within their party. Despite that coordinated effort, you've got over-the-top fake enthusiasm for Kamala Harris. I'm going to get into this in a little bit more. We also have Lori Rook, a candidate for the Treasury in the state of Missouri, a fantastic candidate who you're going to enjoy hearing from. And I'd like to remind you before we go to break, DougBillings.us. DougBillings.us, my website, ladies and gentlemen. That's where you can prayerfully consider giving and setting up a recurring monthly donation to the program so that I can continue to bring you this analysis and this truth. No clickbait, no nonsense, no speculation. It's analysis and opinion that's based in reality. So I never charge you for this show. So prayerfully consider, what is the truth worth to you? And head over to DougBillings.us and set up that monthly recurring donation. Ladies and gentlemen, I will be right back after this short break. Stay with me. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Ladies and gentlemen, what if I told you that you could change the trajectory of your aging process? Look and feel better, live younger, be more active, less pain when you move around, sleep better, diminish the lines and the wrinkles on your face? Really? This is what I'm telling you. It's possible. You see, low stem cell activity happens when we get older. And it could be causing many of the health problems that some people have in the world today. Because as we get older, we have less stem cell activity, which means we age faster and we heal slower. The secret is a clinically proven and patented phototherapy non-transdermal patch, whose technology is the result of over 90 clinical studies and over 20 years of research. Your healthier life can begin today, and you can discover true age reversal. Age reversal, ladies and gentlemen. Please go to liveyounger.with.doug.us. liveyounger.with.doug.us, ladies and gentlemen. Get over there today. Or if you'd like, text my name, Doug, to 41372. Doug, text it, 41372. And get over to liveyounger.with.doug.us. Get younger, feel younger. I'm doing it. I'm wearing this patch. I feel great, and so will you. God bless you, ladies and gentlemen. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
I want to tell you about the good people over at EMP Shield. Electromagnetic pulse, ladies and gentlemen. It can fry your home electrical system or your vehicle's electrical system. But if you attach one of these, now this is for your breaker box at home. There's a smaller version that goes on your battery of your car, your vehicle, that will prevent it from being fried in the event of an electromagnetic pulse. Because as you know, thanks to Administrator Biden, many people coming across the border now who don't exactly have the best of intentions. Protect yourself. EMPshield.com. Get huge discounts over there if you use the promo code Doug.
The Right Side with Doug Billings, pointing out the intellectual immaturity of liberals.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. And I do point out the intellectual immaturity of liberals, and I do it with a great amount of joy. Trust me, I do. So, civics lesson handed to us by the radical left communist socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. I don't want this point to be lost upon us. They talk about democracy. They talk about choice and about people having to say. Remember, they don't want any part of that. Their hierarchy does not believe that the people of their party are smart enough to make a choice of a candidate for their president and the nominee for president. And you've just seen that play out. They didn't give their membership, the John and Jane Doe, who are Democrats throughout America, they didn't give John and Jane Doe a chance to select any of the candidates they would have liked to see. Remember, Biden didn't even go through a primary election. They just selected him and shooed everybody else off. No, nobody else. He's unopposed. The hierarchy made those decisions. And so Harris is still a long way away from sealing the deal here. But the civics lesson is the radical left liberal party in America wants no part of giving we the people the ability to manage the country, the government, which is, of course, what God and the founding fathers intended. They have a convention coming up in August, and we shall just see who ends up being the official nominee, ladies and gentlemen, because not everybody within that party is happy about this civics lesson that I've just described, about the fact that they have shut out John and Jane Doe, common, typical Democrat member, from having any voice or say in who their nominee is. And there's radical groups out there who are not happy. The radical domestic terror group Black Lives Matter, they are not happy. Now, shudder to think what happens when they are not happy. But they've not endorsed Kamala, and they said they're not going to. They said they're going to make a call for an open nomination process at the convention. Now, I don't know if the hierarchy and the machine of that party will shut that down, but that's what they're calling for today. And it's going to be interesting to see. So ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you this. I'm telling you that all of this enthusiasm that you're seeing surround Kamala Harris is absolutely fake. It's coordinated and it's demanded by the hierarchy that the members in the legacy media, television news, talking heads, and the social media podcasters and influencers get on board with it. Why is it? Well, it begs the question, well, why would they put Kamala in if they have to fake enthusiasm? Wouldn't they be sincere in their enthusiasm about it? The reason is because the Communist Socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, want to select and insert someone who is so unlikable. It begs the question, why would they go through all of this work if she was so unlikable and if she was so radical and that nobody in her party voted for her when she ran for president in 2016? She got no delegate votes. Obviously not qualified by any measurable standard. She's to the left and a far way away from Bernie Sanders. So the reason that they're putting her in here, when you think about it and you give it proper analysis, is if you study and understand the radical left agenda in this country, the radical left hierarchy is not stupid. And they possess one virtue over and above those of us on the right side. They are, and they've invoked this virtue and they have used it for 127 years. And that is the virtue of patience. They're a very patient lot over there on the radical left. You see, I mean, believe it or not, they are not so much concerned with whether or not Kamala Harris wins as much as they are moving the political dial in America farther to the left. That's their agenda. That's above and beyond Kamala winning. And it might sound counterintuitive, it might sound crazy, but that's it. Further to the left. That's what the Communist Socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, wants. The nominee must move the presidency and the country and the discussion and the debate further to the left, so that even when we have elections for the House and the Senate, that those candidates on the left can speak about topics that are, in fact, further to the left. So it becomes part of our dialogue. It becomes part of the lexicon of the Communist Socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. They'll be accustomed to hearing about and talking about things like open borders, like eliminating the Electoral College, or either bolstering up and putting more justices on the Supreme Court, or doing away with the Supreme Court in a radical fashion to transform it away from what the founders intended. They'll be used to hearing things like Medicare for everybody, or having a woke military. All of these things that they're talking about currently become part of the normal course of the dialogue, therefore moving the needle further to the left. This is their goal. A weak foreign policy. All debt being erased for everybody. Don't worry about student debt. Hey, we're going to take care of housing debt, boat debt. You got an RV, no more debt. And it crushes and ruins economies. High inflation, low wages, all part of the new lexicon. Abortion on demand, codified into law in every state. All of these things, part of the reason why Kamala is inserted, just to move the dial a little bit further to the left. The end of fossil fuel vehicles, forget it. Electric vehicles is the only way forward. The fundamental transformation of America away from the divine providence of God and the intent of the founding fathers. We could go on and on and on. So you see, believe it or not, it's not so much about having Kamala win as it is continuing to move the dialogue and the discussion, and in fact, the course of the country further to the left. We, and I should say primarily Donald Trump, stand in the way of all of that. And that's why they are so interested in removing him, and have done so and tried to do so over the last 8 years, really. But just above the goal of getting Kamala the victory is that goal of moving the needle to the left. That's what Kamala Harris represents at the core of it all. When she was in the Senate, she was the most routinely ranked most liberal senator in America. And I've got a few clips for you. I want to show you and introduce you to the real Kamala Harris. Here is actually a political ad from Dave McCormick. He's running for Senate in Pennsylvania, a brilliant ad that shows you, listen carefully to this, the real Kamala Harris. Reagan, clip number 1, please.
We are all in this together, and your vote is your power. So please make sure your voice is heard this November and register to vote at vote.gov.
Can I get an amen?
Amen! Now on with the show.
And remember, you better vote.
Okay, well, so wrong clip, but let me explain what that one was. So Kamala records that clip a few 10, 12 days ago or so. So before Joe announced that he was stepping down, right? So they knew already that Kamala was going to be stepping down. That was RuPaul's drag race show, the coalition of immorality over there. So Kamala decides she's going to use that clip and that show, in essence, to launch her campaign. It should be all that you need to know about Kamala right there, surrounding herself and immersing herself even further into the radical left coalition of immorality. Now, we do have a clip, Reagan, from Dave McCormick running a political ad. It's a montage of Kamala talking about things that she believes in. Let's see if we can get that clip up and running.
Kamala Harris is inspiring and very capable. The more people get to know her, they're going to be particularly impressed by her ability.
The nonpartisan GovTrack has rated you as the most liberal senator.
I am prepared to get rid of the filibuster to pass a Green New Deal. There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
Would you ban offshore drilling?
Yes.
What is the solution for voters in the fossil fuel industry?
Giving the workers an ability to transition. We're not going to treat people who are undocumented across the border as criminals. That's correct.
Raise your hand if you think it should be a civil offense rather than a crime to cross the border without documentation.
Abolish ICE. Yeah. Is that a position you agree with?
And we need to probably think about starting from scratch. Outdated, it is wrong-headed thinking to think that the only way you're going to get communities to be safe is to put more police officers on the street.
Would you support changing the dietary guidelines?
Yes.
The food pyramid for people
Yes.
to reduce red meat specifically.
Yes.
People who are convicted in prison, like the Boston Marathon bombers, on death row, people who are convicted of sexual assault, they should be able to vote.
I think we should have that conversation. We have to have a buyback program, and I support a mandatory buyback program.
So for people out there who like their insurance, well, they don't get to keep it.
Let's eliminate all of that. Let's move on. I am opposed to any policy that would deny any human being public health, period.
The more people get to know her, they're going to be particularly impressed by her ability.
Okay, so thank you, Reagan. Perfect. That's the clip. So, ladies and gentlemen, listen. All of the things in that clip, we're going to get to know her. You're darn right. This is just the beginning. The radical left liberal having their honeymoon phase with regards to this fake enthusiasm that they've been mandated to put forth by the hierarchy within that party. All of the things in that commercial. She's the most liberal politician in American elected office history. She wants to end the filibuster in D.C., something that the founders demanded that we have, a vital and important piece of negotiation. She wants to end fracking. She wants to end offshore drilling. She wants to mandate the confiscation of your guns and to label it as a mandatory gun buyback program. She wants to keep the borders open. She will not prosecute illegal immigrants. She wants to give them free stuff, free housing, free medical care, free education. She wants to abolish ICE, the very people who guard and protect our borders. She wants to provide free health care for illegals. She wants to defund the police. She wants to end the meat industry. She wants to provide voting rights for illegal immigrants. She wants to support violent crime by giving felons the right to vote. And she will not, and evidence of the obvious is sufficient enough with her past, she will not prosecute violent criminals with extreme prejudice. And if they are prosecuted and sentenced, you can count on the fact that she'll do just what she did when she was an attorney general. She will let them out early and give them very light sentences. Ladies and gentlemen, That's the Kamala Harris. We're not done talking about her, but first, we're going to take a break. I want you to get in on the phone calls, though, if you want to speak to me or to my guest, Lori Rook, who will be here joining us right after the break. 901-316-8404. 901-316-8404. I will be right back with Missouri candidate for treasurer, Lori Rook, right after this. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings, coming to you from the fruited plains of America.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, here on The Right Side with every move I make and breath I take, saving the republic from the grip of the commu-socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. And we are in this together, my friends. Thanks for being with me. We stand shoulder to shoulder. I want to give you the phone number one more time so you can get in line. The phone line's open, 901-316-8404, 901-316-8404. I had the pleasure and the honor of meeting my guest on the program today in Missouri, my home state. When she's running for the state treasurer, I've been invited to speak at several of their local county gatherings of conservative Republicans, grassroots movements, and so forth. And she is really part of, I've referred to it as the dream team in that state. We have a great template of candidates for governor, for secretary of state, for attorney general, Will Scharf, Bill Eigel, Denny Hoskins, and for treasurer. And treasurer candidate, I think, is just a rock star. Her name is Lori Rook. You're going to want to look her up and support her prayerfully and financially if you can. But I want to bring her on. Lori, welcome to The Right Side.
Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you here on the program. And after having met you a couple of times out on the road throughout the state of Missouri, I know that I think you've got an RV, right? You're out there, you're just hitting the road, traveling the state and shaking hands, meeting people, kissing a few babies along the way, and you're making your case. And so I think you're the one. I really do.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, we're trying to make it everywhere we can. It's a final push right now. So we are sleeping in an RV when we can.
You've got the primary coming up August 6th. And we on the program, we've reminded people about that throughout the country. August 6th primaries. Get out and vote in person. Vote on primary day. Primaries don't get a lot of attention, unfortunately, and we've got to motivate the troops because it's people like Lori Rook who we need to have win these primary elections because they're up against, in so many cases, rhinos and people who aren't exact. I mean, I'm just going to, so you don't have to do it, Lori, I'll do it. I'm just going to, some people will say, well, you shouldn't tell the opposition's name because that would be indiscreet. Vivek Malik Okay, I'm just going to say it. He feigns and fakes relationships with President Trump. He puts out flyers with his image. Reagan, I think we've got a picture of that flyer that I sent you earlier. But he makes it appear as if, yeah, there it is. Makes it appear as if he's buddies and pals or has been endorsed by President Trump. And I can tell you, truthfully, he has not been. But this is the kind of nonsense. Thanks, Reagan, for that. It's the kind of nonsense that just drives me crazy. It's dishonesty, and it's crazy. So, but I'm sure that, Lori, you have a lot to say about this. I know that you're about transparency and financially Missouri as well. And look, folks, you don't have to be from Missouri to be interested in or to be enlightened with what's going on. We need financial transparency, and so often we don't get it. Isn't that right, Lori?
Yeah, and in Missouri, like a lot of states, we've got an incestuous lobbyist, special interest crowd that's really fueling what's going on in Jeff City, and it's taking our state in the wrong direction. So transparency, I know, can be a generic word, but I'm really talking about real transparency here, so folks can understand who's backing who and what sort of liberal agendas are being passed through our legislature, because it's very concerning.
What if you were asked, like I'm about to ask you, what are one or two of the most shocking things that you've discovered with your pursuit of this nomination, this election, with your the process by which you tried to get your name on the ballot, et cetera, because you're a true outsider. You have a successful law firm. You clearly don't need to do any of this, but as many of us have felt, you felt called to do this. And so as you look at what's been the most shocking of the things that you've learned, what are a few of them?
Well, as I went through the appointment process, I was looked over and told, no, thank you, because you're an outsider. And it really validated for me what was going on in Missouri. I don't want to say that it was shocking per se, but it was more, I was surprised that it was said to me in such a blatant fashion, as if, how dare you? And so when the governor did appoint our current treasurer, Vivek Malik, that was shocking to me, because by all accounts, he appeared to be an outsider. But then when I dug in, you really learn that he wasn't. So that was very shocking. Like you said, he is definitely associating himself with Trump when, shockingly to me, and I think folks need to know, he's actually been critical of Trump's immigration policies in the past. He was an immigration attorney. And so it is very hypocritical in my mind to see him associating himself with Trump. But the funds, the money in Missouri that we have that's going outside, we receive more money from the federal government than any other state. And a lot of those funds are supporting a really woke agenda. I discovered recently that we're using funds to promote essentially drag exhibits and shows in our history museums. And that's information I had to really dig around to find, because I'm like, these are public museums. What's going on here? So honestly, it's been shock after shock after shock as I've been on the campaign trail. So,
Lori, before we go any further, I do want to make sure that people know where they can go to find you. Can you give us your website, please, so that people can prayerfully consider how they want to support you?
Yeah, it's LoriRook.com. Very simple.
Pretty simple. LoriRook.com. We'll have people head over there and consider supporting you. Now, okay, but let me take a step back, because during that time when you were in the process of putting your name on the ballot, who were the people that told you no or gave you a hard time about it? Were they Republicans or were they not? I'm trying to figure out who they were and what role they played.
Well, they claim to be Republicans. I mean, this would have been staff in Governor Parsons' office. So, Republicans, we have a Republican governor. And so there's very much this mentality, as I'm sure there are in a lot of other states, that, you need to start at the bottom, whoever defines that, and then just work your way up. And, there's a pecking order I've learned about who's in line to be governor and who's in line to do this or that. And it's a lot of the special interest and lobbyist groups that are making those determinations. And so the reality is Missouri has, we have a lot of people in our legislature and in our executive branch that are running as conservatives or Republicans, and they're not doing conservative and Republican things, and they need to go. We need to clean house. We need to get them out of there. And like I told the governor's office, we actually need more outsiders in Jeff City because those people are not going to be bought and paid for. They're going to come in with a fresh perspective. Most of us are people that don't need a job. I don't need to do this. There's been a lot of great things being on the campaign trail, but being away from my kids and my husband and my family is not particularly fun. So, but those are the folks that we need in there that are actually want to serve and have the right heart behind it, not those that are looking for, I need to make a certain amount of money. This should be my job, because those are the people that are pliable. Those are the people that are going to bend to the special interest in the lobbyists. That's the problem.
You hit on so many things that are important to notice there, Lori. Grassroots movement, people within the swamp establishment, as I call it, those people that you've dealt with in the governor's office. People often say, "Well, I've been here for 30 years, and my gosh, I've devoted my life, and if anybody knows anything, it's me. Because I've been here for so long." Well, my contention with that is the founders and the framers of this country and of the states didn't intend anybody to be around for 20 to 30 years in government. I mean, thank you for your service, but we're not to make a career out of it. We're get in short term, get out, do your job. And then, so it drives me crazy when I hear those stories of people who through the lens of their own ego say, "Well, I've been here for 30 years and I know the system in and out, and I'm the guy, I'm the gatekeeper," whatever. It drives me crazy. But you also go ahead. Oh,
I was just going to say, the reality is that is the problem. That's the system. It's like you're part of the problem, so you need to go.
Yeah. And you, having heard you on the stump, so they speak, so throughout Missouri, I was very interested in one of the things that you want to do in that state, and that is you're taking a look at making gold and silver part of legal tender in the state, to be able to use gold and silver to buy product and services, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's any way around it. And the fact that our legislators and our lawmakers are saying, no, we can't do that, or no, it's not feasible, that should be a red flag to everybody, because anytime the government's telling you can't do something, that should be like, okay, well, that probably means we should do it. And the reality is we're going very quickly towards the centralized digital bank system, and that's bad. Anything like that, globalization, let's all do the same thing is a problem. And so we need to be more diversified and look at other states that are doing it. It is feasible.
We've got your website there on the screen. Ladies and gentlemen, LoriRook.com. Please prayerfully consider going over there. Lori, as you you're in the home stretch. We've got August 6th primary date. You're out there throughout the state of Missouri. Want a strong finish. Let's give ourselves permission to dream a little bit. Let's say that you win. Okay, you win. You're going to, and you take office as treasurer in the state of Missouri. So what does a Lori Rook administration look like? What would be your first 100 days or so? What does all that look like? Set the stage for us, for the people in Missouri and for people in other states to consider when they look at their candidates for treasurer as well.
Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start examining every program and every department. And,
Okay.
We have an auditor, which, a lot of states do. And so there's a fine line there between, the auditor's role. But we're going to start taking a deep dive into these programs and see where this money's actually going. The budget allocates for certain things, and I want to ensure that we're actually spending money on those things. And I have a feeling we're not. And I have enough evidence from looking into some of this that we're not. So we're going to start doing that. And then we're going to start putting that information out there so folks can really see this. So I've set up a website already with my own funds. It's called showmemomoney.com. And I have a lot of people say, well, there's already information out there. There's already, portals out there. You can already see where some of your tax dollars are going. This is beyond that. This is actually looking at, what in the budget was allocated towards things that we don't even have. For example, staffing, we don't even have people in those seats. Are we actually paying for the things that we're supposed to be paying for? Are we actually paying for things that are against Missouri law? So I happen to know that there was a line item put in our budget for doula services, and we've defunded Planned Parenthood, but no one really is aware that there's 7 different kinds of doulas. There's an abortion doula. So are we paying for a training to help outsource abortion services in Missouri? So those are the types of deep dives I want to take into each one of these programs and systems. And then obviously a staffing, we're going to take a really good look at staffing, because I want to make sure that my staff is on the same page, that they understand what we're doing here. And to the extent no one is willing to make some of these hard decisions and say, no, we're not doing that, then we're going to have a problem.
Lori Rook, ladies and gentlemen, LoriRook.com. You can head over there to that website, read all about her, learn about this. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, no matter where you live, this is the kind of template that you need. In the Treasury office within your own state, Lori Rook represents that. Lori, you know me. I offer you my full support, my endorsement. We're going to do everything we can to help you see this thing through. Thank you for the sacrifice. You mentioned it, leaving family and home and being on the road and away from all of that. It's an image of what the founders did, and it's an image of what the grassroots movement in this country represents. So we've got about 30 seconds left. I'll give you the last 30 seconds.
Financial contributions are amazing. I'm a self-funded candidate. I preach that to everybody. I'm not paid. I don't have lobbyists or special interests backing me. And so it's really refreshing to be able to say, I don't owe anybody anything. I'm not compromised. And so many of the folks, everyone on my ticket is compromised. The backdoor deals that have gone on up to this point are just disturbing. And so we're going to continue down this road in Missouri if we don't stop. The definition of insanity is continuing to do the same thing over and over again. And Missouri can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. So I would appreciate any support that anyone's willing to give me, and get out and vote August 6th in Missouri. It's the Super Bowl.
Ladies and gentlemen, there she is, the candidate for Missouri Treasurer, Lori Rook. LoriRook.com. Head over there. Lori, thank you very much for being on the right side. Ladies and gentlemen, stay with me. I'll be right back after this break. Cheers.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Hey, consider going to MyPillow.com right now and get your pet a pet bed, just like my beloved Delta has right here in my office. Not only can you get pet beds, but you can get sheets, towels, blankets, and so much more. Slippers, sandals, robes, beach towels. It just goes on and on. But please, go to MyPillow.com and be sure to use the promo code B66. When you do, not only will you receive savings, but a generous percentage of each purchase comes back to continue supporting this 24/7 free broadcast outlet. We need your support. Hey, look, we're entrepreneurs, just like my friend Mike Lindell. We all need your support, and you're getting quality products at the same time. So please, go to MyPillow.com and use the promo code B66. Mike always has amazing specials going right there at MyPillow. So check out whatever those specials might be today. You never know. Mike's always changing it up and making new offers right there at MyPillow.com. But be sure to use the promo code B66.
TWC.health/Brandon. This is one of our sponsors, has been now for a few years. Here it is. You just go there. If you use that URL, folks, you not only save money, but our program gets credit, which helps us keep doing great shows like this for free and pushing them out. TWC.health/Brandon. Look up here at the top of the page where it says Med Kits. Go down there to the one that says Contagion Emergency Kit. Contagion Emergency Kit. That's the one you want, right, Dr. McCullough?
Right. That's going to cover bird flu. Just you start on day one. I think all the animal workers, people in rural areas need to have these. You can't wait around for the pharmacist. If you start early, that comes with telemedicine. We can intensify the antivirals, get other drugs going. Very affordable. Join through Brandon's website. Join as a member, because we're working on ways to replace the used drugs, and you have to be a member to get that advantage.
Doug Billings, driving the left crazy with the truth.
Ladies and gentlemen, here we are, the right side, you and me together. Lori Rook, again, on the program just a moment ago. Thank you, Lori, for joining us. Again, ladies and gentlemen, the template is there for us. This grassroots movement that we have is something really to behold. And we have President Trump, really, to thank for rebranding the conservative movement, the MAGA movement. You know, that is not a term, Make America Great Again, obviously, not a term that we should be embarrassed about. That is it. That's what we're all about. And even, you know, the state, local, county level, that's where it all begins. It does not change, doesn't happen and start anywhere near Washington, D.C. So, again, please remember throughout this republic, on Election Day, on primary day, get out there and vote. On Election Day, don't vote early. Get out there and vote on Election Day. It's what the founders intended, right? We've talked a lot about that. Get out there and vote, and we'll do it. So I want to come back, though, to what I began talking about at the beginning of the show, and that is the real, quote unquote, real Kamala Harris. Who is she, and what does she stand for? Because all we see is, I mean, I have a friend, Zeke Montana, today calls me up. He's a local radio guy in Kansas City. Don't worry, he's a local celebrity, not a national celebrity, as you see here in front of you. But he's my best friend, and he called me, texted me, and he says, "What is this? What is all of this excitement, enthusiasm? All I see is this stuff about Kamala. It's the rah Kamala hour, right? Why? What's going on? How are they? Is it really that good? Is she really going to win? Are they?" And I had to say, whoa, Zeke, hang on a minute. It's fake. It is all, and it's mandated, by the way, by the hierarchy of the radical communist socialists, formerly known as Democrat Party. Here again, evidence of the now. This oftentimes humor is a brilliant way to get us to and to talk about truth. Andrew Scholes is a guy who I don't know much about, but I saw this clip today, and I said, I've got to put that on the show. We've got to show this, because he uses, in a brilliant way, comedy to talk about what Kamala Harris represents and what her party represents. And we all in America know this. The vast movement towards the right side, the conservative movement, is a major movement. And when we get done with the comedy of Andrew Schultz here, I'm going to show you some reputable polling numbers. But first, let's take a look here. Andrew Schultz, ladies and gentlemen.
And Kamala is in. The election went from drool runnings to cool runnings faster than a female cop can fumble her firearm. Move over, RFK. This November, we've got a new throat goat, and apparently her headshots don't miss. Kamala Harris, or as we call her, Warhawk Tua, the half-black, half-Indian parents met at a 7-Eleven robbery, is officially the Democratic nominee. Surely the Dems, the party that calls Trump the end of democracy, surely they allowed the voters to choose Kamala, right? What? No? Wait, there's no right to choose? Guys, this is a presidential election, not a woman's body in Oklahoma. Now, I don't want to seem like a flat earthing, dinosaur denying, believe all women conspiracy theorist, but it kind of feels like the Democrats dragged Biden's lifeless corpse through the campaign long enough to avoid a primary so they could place whoever they wanted as the nominee. And that's about as democratic as North Korea's Got Talent. Sidebar, last year's winner, Ching Chong Chestnut, ate 46 rats. Congratulations, Ching Chong. That's a lot of rats. We'll look forward to seeing how many you eat next year. What I'm saying is they used a vegetable to install a plant. And honestly, we would have been happier with a fruit. But the reality is it doesn't matter. Last week, Trump became invincible. Literally. He was leading before, and now he's number one with a bullet. At this point, if the Dems wanted to beat Thrifty Cent, they'd have to run George Washington, and Kamala could work for him. Paid. Now, why is Trump invincible? Because he has the power of Hulkamania, obviously, brother, with a hard R, and also because this pimple-lipped, pug-faced incel, we'll call him a trench bulldog, tried to make Trump's brain public domain. Fortunately, even a bullet couldn't make Donald open-minded. Now, getting a shot off at the president must be an incredibly difficult thing to accomplish. I mean, not as difficult as finding binoculars to fit his eyes. Jesus, he looks like the sloth from Ice Age. But he must have designed a pretty ingenious plot to circumvent the Secret Service and oh, what's that? Wait, you're saying that Herbie Potter was just walking around with a loaded gun like he was on an Alec Baldwin set? He was carrying a fucking ladder and a rangefinder. He propped it up on a building that had cops in it, positioned himself on the roof with a perfect sight line to the president, and no one did anything? This Mickey Mouse security detail was so goofy it made Donald duck. Oh boy! Who's in charge of the Secret Service? A lady? Wait, what? Seriously? Well, of course she didn't have anyone on top of the building. Women only care about shots on a roof when there's a pool party. Now, I don't want to seem like a Bigfoot tracking, moon landing denying Jews don't control the weather conspiracy theorist, but it doesn't exactly feel like a 20-year-old fetal alcohol face McLovin should be able to infiltrate the most advanced security detail in history. I mean, the only other thing he's penetrated was his palm. Did Kim Cheadle hire Epstein's NyQuil Night Watch? What the fuck is going on here? This just doesn't feel right. And that's the problem. Nothing feels right. We have officially entered the post-truth age. We can't trust the media. We can't trust the government. We can't trust the pharmaceutical industry. We can't even trust the food we eat. So who can you trust? Me, your good friend Schultze. This episode has been brought to you by Pfizer. There is no promo code. There's nothing to fill out. They're already inside you. But before we bitch, whine, and complain, just remember, like it or not, this is what we asked for. We wanted fast content that makes us feel good. We want politicians who lie to us. We want sugary food to fill us up and pills to slim us down. We don't want what's good for us. We want what's convenient. So we made our bed. Might as well get comfy. Sleep tight.
So there it is. And the humor that he uses there, I think, steers in the right direction. You're going to have to play that back and listen to it again, obviously, to catch it all. But that was great stuff and very funny, very effective. Before I leave you, polls, very important, because the radical left will never tell you the truth about polls. I'm going to put up 3 quick polls. First, from Rasmussen. I want you to take a look at these numbers. This is after Kamala has been announced. We have the Rasmussen poll, Trump ahead by a lot. We have 58% Trump and 39% Harris. That's the Rasmussen. And guess what? There's another poll, Quinnipiac. They've got a poll from Generation Z voters, people from age 18 to 34. And they've got them up, Trump up by 58 to 39%. For Harris. So the Gen Z folks moving towards Trump in a big way. Newsweek magazine did an article about this about 4, 5, 6 months ago. It's a phenomenon. The young voters in America, you'll never hear the left say it. In fact, the left will say the opposite. But the truth is the young voters in America are on Trump's train by big numbers. And then we have Forbes and Harris. They have a poll that came out just the other day. Trump, 53%. Harris, 47%. The Rasmussen poll, I want to go back to that for a minute. Trump at 50. That's up 7 points since just last week. Harris at 43. So again, Trump 50, Harris 43%. And when you add other people into the race, it benefits Trump. The Rasmussen poll, when you add RFK Jr. and Stein, nobody knows who he is, but he's running. When you add those two guys in, here's the numbers. Trump 49%, up 7 points. 49% for Trump, 42% for Harris. RFK Jr. comes in at a whopping 4% and Stein at 1%. So there has been no honeymoon period for Kamala Harris, ladies and gentlemen. Trust me. It's like I told Zeke Montana today, my friend from Kansas City Radio. It's all fake, this enthusiasm. I know it's loud, and they put it out there. Everybody on the radical left, every talking head on television, every influencer on social media. It's mandated fake enthusiasm. Kamala wasn't liked, and she didn't have a chance in 2016. She doesn't have a chance in 2024. Get out and vote. Don't become complacent. Don't buy into the clickbait. Remain in reality with me, and you can do that by helping me over at DougBillings.us so that I can continue to bring you the show, ladies and gentlemen. DougBillings.us, that's the website. I'm just asking that you prayerfully consider setting up a monthly recurring donation over there. Any amount that you choose, please, would help that I could bring you and continue to produce this program. DougBillings.us, ladies and gentlemen. Head on over there. I'll see you again tomorrow. We're here every Monday through Friday, thanks to the good people at worldviewtube.com, people at Spreely TV and all of the social media platforms, X and Facebook and Rumble and YouTube. We're all on all of those platforms as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in this together. We're going to prevail. Believe it. For the Republic. Until next time, cheers.